I'm so thrilled to have Toyin Ayandare here with us today. And oh my goodness, what hasn't Toyin done? So she has done flips, buy, refurbish, refinance, serviced accommodation, HMOs, commercial conversion, new build, and has created basically from nothing an eight-figure size portfolio. I am so honored to have you here with me, Toyin. And we were saying it's been too long since I've seen you in person.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, Emma. I'm looking forward to today's conversation. And yeah, it's been far too long. So look for it is an exciting opportunity to be here with you.
Fantastic. So, Toyin, straight in, as a black woman in property, a field that we know is often perceived as being dominated by white males, how has your identity shaped your journey? What challenges or advantages have you experienced along the way?
Absolutely great question. And I think it just takes me way back to the very beginning of 13 years ago when was going to start this journey full time. And it was purely, I remember going to this female women in business meeting or something along those lines, networking meeting. And I went there on the day and I said, and the lady was like, oh my, I sounded very, very enthusiastic. I said, can I be the first person to tell you about the challenges that you could possibly, the biases that you could possibly meet on along the line, so that you're aware ahead of time. She said, one, I think you're female, you're and the next thing, I mean, at the time you're young. I don't feel that young anymore. I
You
said you're
still look
black.
it.
I said like you're black. And said all of these three things are not what is common within the space you're going into. And so just be aware of it. Don't let it knock you down. Don't let it push you. And I think whilst it sounded like a very bold thing that she said it out in the open and everyone was looking at her and think, I really do thank her for that conversation that day, because it was almost as a warning and something that I've sort of I've encountered as I've gone along, because every single time I go everywhere, you have one of those things come up, and it's I've come, I don't know, I won't say I've accepted, I've come to understand it's due to the lack of knowledge of the people I'm dealing with. And hence why I want more and more of people like me to get into that space, so that it's no longer a notion where we're in the minority. But honestly, there's loads of things I could talk about in the way even my builders, the people that I actually employ on my team, will undermine your instructions and look for. And I mean, the amount of times I've gone on site and I've been told, "Oh, can you call the boss?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean it was the boss?" Because just because I've been speaking to you on the phone and we've never met doesn't mean that you assume there's someone else behind there. And several times I do get that. I mean, I got one recently. Funny enough, it was with another female, and we seem to be headbutting a lot. And then she just said something. So I finally said, "Oh, okay, I just don't get it." I was like, what exactly it is? We are two strong females. And she's a contractor builder. I'm a developer, and we know that we've almost got to be alpha females, isn't it? In that space. And I said, let's drop the acts, let's drop everything, and just be our the female version of ourselves. And I said, you don't need to try and be hard as a man. I don't need to be anything. Let's just be comfortable in who we are and get business done. And yeah, it's just so, I mean, not many times can I have that conversation. A lot of times it's just always a case of you just leave people in their ignorance and get on with doing business. And it is not the easiest, but hey, I knew what I was getting into when I did.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting one. I think as a female, obviously myself, always been in a business world. I never really noticed it, and I was quite surprised. But I worked for, L'Oreal, pretty big company. They're not going to have, issues like that. But it wasn't until I sort of got out into the bigger world, I suppose, and saw examples of people perhaps not being treated as correctly. I had a business partner, or have a business partner who is foreign, and I really saw some people treat him very badly. And, they try and sort of negotiate through me. And I'd be like, no, you don't have to persuade me. You have to persuade my business partner. So it is interesting, isn't it? He's a man.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think there are things that I've certainly seen since coming into the property world, and I mean it's across the board, but
Yeah.
it's interesting, and I suppose it's sort of how you react to that. So you've kind of spoken about, you were at loggerheads with a woman, but have you sort of touched on it? Have you had to become somebody else in the process, or have you been able to just kind of, do you take it on with jokes, or how do you deal with that kind of feedback? Because that could be quite, especially when you mentioned being young, that can be really hurtful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the young aspect I've sort of come across, especially ever since I turned 30. I was like, okay, no, I can't get away with the excuse of me young anymore. And I am probably of age. But yeah, absolutely. It's when I started on the journey, it used to get to me a little bit more. I remember one of the first few times I bought a property. Now, this property, I think I'd viewed one of the times I viewed, I don't know who, maybe it was a viewing agent. Anyway, throughout the transactions, speaking on the phone, eventually went to pick up the keys after we had completed on the purchase. I went to pick up the keys, met the agent, and make I knocked on the door to get in, and he just said, no, 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 the lettings office is the other way, not here. And I was like, what do you mean the lettings office is not here? You're here to find out about if you can rent a property, right? No, it's not here. I was just like, no, no, I'm here to pick up the keys for the property we just completed. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. And I was like, what do you mean you're so sorry? How do you mean? What exactly prompted you to thinking just because I've come in, you just assume I'm here to rent property? I mean, before we built one of the properties that we built, I remember buying the property and then we had the heating was there was an issue with the heating system. And basically I had again, this was where I live now, so we obviously bought the place. It was run down. It is in a very affluent area. We had a problem with the heating, so I called the a gas engineer to come have a look. And basically he came, I was like, oh, this is a very old system. I was like, yeah, the old house is going to be ripped out, but it's fine. It's like, no, but even at that, I would advise you to speak to the landlord to come fix this. You don't need to pay for this out of pocket. And I was like, and normally, I mean, this was many years after obviously I'd done it. Initially, my reaction is like, getting all blown and just trying to, what do you mean? How do you, like, I reacted that first few time that person said so. And this, I was just like, okay. I just kept quiet. I mean, I've gotten to a stage where I don't argue and I don't, I mean, I've realized I have met some people where I've tried to change them, and I've realized I mean, not making an excuse for anyone that does it. So, but not everything said is done with the intention of being malicious. I think sometimes it's just the limited knowledge. It's just them being myopic, and absolutely no excuse. But I've decided to take on the approach of not being a victim, not allowing myself be affected by the comment of someone that's limited in knowledge. So what I do is when if the environment is convenient, if it's a convenient time, if it's conducive environment, then I would try and explain to you, no, 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 and we'll talk it out. And or if I'm upset, I'll let you know, no, no, that's the wrong thing to assume. But most of the times, I just let it slide, and I just let my results speak for itself, honestly. And that has been a game changer. A lot of time, I mean, loads of people that I work with are like, oh my goodness, you've changed my mind about, and this is without me saying anything, because the results go ahead to say, oh wow, she's not just a woman, she knows her stuff, she knows what she's doing. Or well, she's not just foreign, she's got the portfolio behind her, she's got the equity, I've got the results to show. And I think one of the other things I've done, like I said, is try and making sure that I help more people with that are young, the black or female, make them more of them get into this space and realize it's not just for a chosen food, but you've got to work hard and you can get the results.
Wow. I mean, that is really, really powerful. And obviously, this is property mindset, this podcast. And a couple of things that just came through to me then is absolutely, it's bad things happen to everybody. Whether what gender, whatever you are, some maybe happen more to certain people,
Yeah.
but you have chosen to react in a certain way. I love the fact that you said you chose not to be a victim, because we can all have a pity party, and then actually we start searching for things, and sometimes people may have said things that are completely, you can take them out of context. We've all seen that, especially if you're in politics. But what I really liked about you, the way you've approached this, is just understanding that generally people are not coming from a position of malice. Exactly. They just literally said something, and we've all said things before, haven't we, that came out in a certain way, and we certainly didn't mean it, and people have taken offense, and then it's kind of can grow out of proportion. So that's, a tremendous mindset. And to say that that's, been a real change for you, I can imagine, certainly I've seen it over the years, that suddenly you can be happier, and rather than just sitting everything that comes your way, it's a real pain. So just going back a bit, obviously you started from humble beginnings. um what do you think, and you have powered through, I mean, you're still really young. I don't want to start talking about ladies' ages, but what was your, so obviously I love mindset and stuff, so I'm always really keen to get to the bottom of people's things. But what is your why? What has kept you going from the start? And maybe just give us a bit of an overview of that journey of where you did start, because when you start without what you've got now, without all that knowledge, it's a big leap of faith, isn't it?
It is absolutely. It's been a mixture of things for me. I grew up in Nigeria where I was born, and I remember when I was about 10 years old, we went through a phase where I mean, I didn't know what it was called at the time, but we were being evicted from our home, and just saw my parents scrambling all the way around and just trying to still, even in the midst of that, trying to still hide everything away, hide it away from us. And obviously, I mean, I was 10. I wasn't stupid. I knew that for some reason I woke up in one house and I was sleeping in another house that day. So I knew things weren't right. And obviously, go over the years, I got to understand that a bit more. And one of the things I decided, even at a young age, without knowing exactly what the details of it was, because it's not like we were doing badly, we were sort of medium. But then I don't know. I mean, I mean, not going into that story anyway. I made a decision that I was never going to have that situation happen to my family, and I didn't want to ever put my family in that situation. Not fault of my parents. I just saw how it made them feel really bad and how helpless it made them feel, and I didn't want that to be the situation with myself. And I thought, I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to be wealthy. Now I didn't know what that looked like, and fast forward a few years from then, relocated to the United Kingdom. Like I always say, I relocated with £200. That's all I had. And so it was like graft, graft, graft. Working in McDonald's, I moved through that ranks and got something, a corporate job that was slightly better. But I realized again, I wanted to be wealthy, but this wasn't going to be the path. Yeah, I was earning a bit better than I was earning when I was working in McDonald's, but I didn't have the time freedom. And fast forward, I got married, had my first child. She had some medical issues, and I think it was at that point for me, I was like, no, something has got, it's got my financial outlay and outlook has got to be different from what it is now. I can't bring a child to this world and not be able to provide for them and not be able to have time. And so I started thinking, I've got to look for a way out of this. And lo and behold, I used to watch the BBC show Umsanadiyama, and I was like, I think I can do this. And it was looking back, I was really bold. God, I mean, to think that I all I had was that show. I had no one, absolutely no one, which that done got into property. I had no one to speak to, not anything at all. I just told myself, I'll try. I mean, I've been nothing around and I've been, should I know what if it goes wrong? But I just thought, I would never know if I don't try. And I was like, let's go. Walk around the alley street. Where do I get money from? And the rest is history. But literally, from that one property, decide, okay, I'll try it out. I'll buy a property at auction. My first investment property was at auction. To tell you how bold and don't try this at home because no knowledge, nothing at all. I'm so glad. I mean, obviously, it's probably the worst property investment we've done in terms of purchase and everything. But I was willing to risk it all so that I can get the dreams that I desired because I knew it was out there. I knew it was out for grabbing. Um, I do take risk. I take calculated risk. Maybe that wasn't the most calculated one, but I knew that there was no way out of where I wanted to if I just continued to play safe. And for me, it was just like, you know what, Toyin, just go ahead and do this. I mean, worst case scenario, you lose all the money. It means that you're going to work for the next 10 years to get back again. But you know what? You would try. And I did try. And 13 and many years on, hey, I'm here with the eight-figure property portfolio size that I'm so thankful for, because I know if I didn't trust myself, trust that I could do this, well, it wouldn't be exactly, we wouldn't be here today, right?
Oh, that is, truly incredible. And what I find amazing is that, as you said, you didn't really have the education. You basically got your education from Homes Under the Hammer, which, let's be fair, isn't necessarily the best. And I sort of compare this to, me having kids. I remember people saying, oh, it'll come naturally. There was none of that for me. Like I was like reading through the books, what to do at each times of the day. And that was like that for me with property. I've had loads of mentorship. I've really needed that help and support. But you have gone through and done incredible projects that would definitely intimidate, most people. And initially, without any kind of mentorship or anything else. I mean, did you ever kind of doubt yourself? Did you have sort of imposter syndrome? How did you cope with that?
Absolutely, all through the way, especially in the early days. I mean, I must mention that although I started without education, along and I learned on the job. I was reading and soaking up every single thing, speaking to agents, speaking to builders, trying to soak up as much information as I could. Although I started off that way, along the line, I mean, and I would so I don't think I went along the line. I got mentorship, I got trained, I literally sort of so it was very, very important for, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've grown. It's not, I mean, if I had started at the pace, I would probably had literally got to the point where things could have gone pear-shaped. But yes, absolutely. Especially at the beginning, I doubted myself. I wasn't sure. I'm very, very lucky that my husband is very supportive, because even though I'm saying I could have I risked a lot. What if you're going to waste everyone's life savings and everything just literally down the drain? But even though I'm like in our relationship, I'll be the self starter. I'm always want to say let's go, and I always say I'm the accelerator, he's the brakes, and it will keep me in checks every now and then to say, oh, wait, have you thought about it this way? However, I mean, I size all on my own, and I got to a point where I just thought, who do you really think you are, Toyin? Are you sure about what you're doing? But I always say, even when you don't have the motivation and you don't know, whatever I always say that it's very important what's keeping you going, what's behind you. I felt like I'd gotten to ground zero. I'd seen what lack looked like. And the only thing I needed to do was see what abundance looked like. I couldn't have, I mean, I've been there, I've seen what lack looks like. There's no point rolling at that level. I've got to try something else. And so I think for me, a lot of time, that's what keeps me going to say, um, how bad can it get? What exact? And I also know that the only way I can actually experience success is on the other side of facing my fears. So yes, I did have those fears. Yes, I did have those doubts. Yes, I actually talked myself out of certain deals, but I also know that the only way to get to the desired goal, I'm a very, very big daydreamer. I dream a lot. I know how to go through. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm a big action taker, so I think that helps as well.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I think you've got so much, it sounds like so much why, that when all these things creep in, and the fact that you've got a supportive partner, and it sounded, you also mentioned that you didn't just go out and guess on these things. You were speaking to as many people as possible, reading books, doing the things to help you along. So yeah,
Yep.
totally could see that. So you mentioned also about being a bit of a risk taker. Now, obviously, property is all about, betting big. It's not small, is it? It's not a pound on the lottery or something, and it's obviously definitely financial, but it can be emotional and professional as well. Um, so how do you come about and differentiate, sorry, between taking a calculated risk, and then you also mentioned that there were some that you pulled out from? How do you kind of make those decisions, knowing when a risk is really worth taking, and perhaps when it's worth pulling back from?
I'll be lying to you if I said that I always know 100% every time. I'm sure there's some good deals that I took myself out of it, probably
Mm.
because of my situation and circumstance at that time, or maybe some other things that, to be honest, I don't think there's anything I've taken on that I feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't, and things would have been better. I'm not big on regrets because I did the best I could with the knowledge I had at the time. So there's really nothing that I would say I've done that maybe I shouldn't have done. It's more like there are things that in hindsight I'm thinking maybe that would have been a good deal, especially when you see it pan out. But in terms of how am I informed in taking those risks? It's a mix of things. Obviously, now I'm more knowledgeable, so my experience on certain situations, and now I'm handling my finances helps inform certain things I need to do. I always say a good deal is a good deal only if it's right for you. So it doesn't mean it's not a bad deal. It's just if you, depending on where you are, the space, your mindset, financially as well. I mean, I'm not one to sort of take on too many projects at once. That I have a maximum number of projects, depending on the scale of the project as well, that I would take on at once. Not because I couldn't get a lot of teams and rest of that, but I know the kind of project that I do, and I know the part that I want to get involved in, and I also know what's priority for me. I mean, luxury travel, my children, all of those things are still very, very big on for me. So I am very, very conscious that again my time comes into play. So I let those things inform the decision I tend to make. And then one of the things that I also do is obviously I trust my gut feeling. And sometimes I go into a property, it looks good, somehow it just doesn't sit well. I mean, I am not one to sort of say, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, numbers stack, I'll go ahead. I just let a lot of times I will say I'll go sleep on something, I'll go sleep on it and just see how it goes. And I mean, another thing is obviously I'm a Christian, so I pray about it as well and make sure that I'm at peace with whatever decision I need to make. I think at the end of the day, because property is, I won't just say it's a lifestyle business. It's something I enjoy doing. So I'm gonna make sure the deals that I'm doing I enjoy it, because if I don't, I've done quite a number of projects over the last few years. There are some projects that I fall out of loving, and it tells because you then see that I don't visit the properties as often as I should, and I have to sort of encourage myself to go to sites. I don't want to do that regularly, and I'm fortunate enough in the fact that I can't make those choices now, which I probably couldn't at the early days, but now I can't make those choices on project that I need to involve. So why do I need to do something that will make me happy? Just don't look for the next project.
I love that. And so key, you talked a lot about really listening to your gut instinct and whether your faith is in God or in the universe or whatever, it's having faith in yourself as well and believing that. And that has come across really a lot, is that you're listening to yourself and understanding that. So I want to get into sort of some of your projects now. I mean, I've followed sort of various things. Obviously, you've done a lot, but is there one particular project that you're like really proud of? And then if we may also have the opposite, one particular project where you just felt that perhaps everything went wrong and it was, really, really challenging. But let's start with the positive one first, the one that you're kind of really proud of. I know you've got, a fair few, but
Yeah, I should have thought you were going to ask me this and plan with. Really, really proud of, really, really proud of. I think it's got to be this one, and I'm just thinking the one I'm gonna. Oh, they're both commercial conversions. Anyway, that's what comes to mind. If I think of another one, then I'll change. But the one that comes to mind I'm most pleased with was it's a commercial conversion. It was an old furniture shop that we purchased, and I think the deal got brought to my attention by one of my power team. It was available on the open markets, and I had a look. And the reason why, one of the reasons why I was really proud is it was at a time where I could have just said, "Nah, I'm not going to look at this right now," because I was having difficulties on another project, and that there is a tendency where we become just singular focus on the problem, and then it just makes you not see whatever the issues, whatever the wins are. and eventually bought this property. It, I mean, the good and bad thing about this, and this is where your power team and knowledge really is key. The property, although it was a furniture shop, the previous owner, who had owned it for about 30 years, had spoken to his architect, and they had literally gotten a planning permission to say they're going to knock down the property and get 4 times 1 bedroom apartments. Now, there was no way that was going to be viable. Obviously, doing my research, speaking to architect and my planning officer, I realized I could buy the property, but I wasn't going to buy it to do exactly what they're going to do. So I was able to buy the property on, I mean, I was going to say call it an option, but not really option. It was probably a delayed exchange and delayed completion. So again, because I didn't have the funds at the time. So what I'm saying, I'm super proud. I didn't have the funds, but was able to purchase it using that means I think, don't know, I must have paid something minimal to sort of exchange, and then we had a delayed completion just for a few months. But it gave me time to then go and explore. What I wanted to do was obviously not knock the property down, get permitted development on it, so that the current site on the current property on the site could be reconfigured. Obviously, commercial conversion. I'm converted to residential units, so the building itself we converted instead of they're going to knock down the building, build something on there, and then get 4 times 1 bedroom. But on the building itself, without knocking anything down, without any external, we were able to get 4 apartments, 1 3 bedroom and 3 2 bedroom properties. So that's on the side. Obviously, I have literally, was able to, I was going to say after the construction cost, but I'm sure it would have been a lot less. Now, the cherry on the top of this was there was a garage on the side, which was all going to be knocked up as part of that. We knocked down and we built two additional 2 apartments on there. So in total, we've got 6 apartments on there, 5 2 bedrooms and 1 3 bedroom penthouse apartment or mansion, or what do you call it? What do you call it? And I was like, wow, this is a property. Even though the owner walks around and it was like, I can't believe you're able to get all of what you did on the site for what you did it for. And it's like, wow. And I think that really did us well in terms of the profit on that side, because it was really good money. All of the properties we've kept within the portfolio, thankfully. But yeah, it was just one of those that, one, I trusted myself. I didn't allow the problems that I had make me so distracted. I couldn't see when opportunities came up. And also, I also explored all of the learnings that I had on the previous project to put into this one to make sure that I didn't just go with what the planning permission said. I checked. Again, it could have gone wrong. There are loads of things, but obviously you know the things that you know, and you trust yourself and you back yourself up. And that's what we did. And yeah, it's been a fantastic project.
That sounds really amazing. And I think sometimes we automatically assume that when people have got planning permission before, that might be the only option. And actually, when you look at things, to go from 4 1 beds to inherently 6 very sizable apartments, there's just no comparison. So yeah, really congratulations.
I had to. And this is where conversations happen. Yeah, exactly what you thought. There are times I've seen property and just think, architect has worked on it. This must be the best. And just like you said, I had that suspicion as well. And I spoke to the owner to say, what exactly informed this? Wow, how did you come about this? And that conversation back and forth made me realize he didn't have the best architect on the job. And so that made me think, okay, you know what? Get to my architects. What do you think we can get here? And yeah, maybe to get something better.
I love it. I love it. So now if we can move on to one perhaps that didn't go so well, and what would be really nice, I suppose, in looking at this is, I think in property you need quite a bit of resilience. So maybe, how you were able to, cultivate resilience during a project that wasn't perhaps so easy.
So this one, it's not one I could say that this is what we did wrong. It just went wrong. Okay. So the only thing I can say that maybe, but I won't say that it's actually wrong, was I didn't trust myself well enough as I normally would. Okay. Because it was a bigger, at the time, it was bigger than what I was used to in terms of project size. I just somewhat thought I needed help to do it. And I went on to sort of engage someone else to join me on the job. Now I found the site myself. I had the funding, but that's like it was a new build. It was a bigger build than I had been used to. And I thought maybe this could go wrong. Maybe I wouldn't be able to do this on my own. Let me get this chap involved. And because he had it was a builder, because he had done some other jobs for me. I was like, we'll joint venture on this together. And everything just went down the rail from there. But I wouldn't say that that's the reason, but it's just that's the only thing I can say I did differently from my other jobs. But it was everything that could go wrong on this site went wrong. We literally had probably visited planning about 4 or 5 times, and all of this was obviously the site was financed by the bank, so expensive finance, and then you had all of that going wrong, and it just was not the best of timing for us as well. It was just a lot from not getting knocked back by planning several times to actually then getting on site. And then we eventually got on site. The building contractor that we got on literally had some medical issues just at the start, which meant it shut everyone down just after we had paid some money. And I was just like, oh my goodness. I mean, I was empathetic in terms of what he was going through and the issues he was having, because obviously he shut everyone out, including his family. But I also had finance on the line. He was just like, and I mean, time was going. I mean, and if with the bank finance, as great as it is to get the leverage, it's not flexible enough to allow for any of these things. And yeah, we just found ourselves in that situation, just like everything went wrong. But this is one project that literally tested out every patient fiber that I got. And you said something about being resilient. Oh my goodness, I've had to be resilient in pulling through this one. There are loads of times I got advice, just sell it off. But I mean, when you know that selling it off is just going to put you in such a terrible space. One, it's going to obviously build onto my doubts and can I actually do this? But secondly, it's also I'm going to lose a lot of money because I put in too much and it's cost so much. I kept on putting in money, and it's almost like I've got to see this project to its finish end. And so, yeah, just needed to be resilient, pull through. We eventually got through, but it was a lot. But I'm thankful. I am thankful. And I think all of these things just really contributes to who I am today, really. It's not just a case of you don't just need all the good stories. You need the not so nice ones to build you up as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Lots of learnings. Absolutely.
I learned a lot about myself as well.
Absolutely, my goodness.